quest for a nation to complete the journey begun by our forefathers who fought valiantly to resist colonial rule, as well as our brave freedom fighters who sacrificed immensely to win sovereignty for our nation. In this journey, the people of Kenya engaged each other across the country with courage and determination and negotiated relentlessly on the understanding that a new governance paradigm was absolutely necessary and, in fact, inevitable. As we reflect and reminisce about constitution making, one thing becomes absolutely clear. In all the bargainings, horse trading, deal making, and consensus building that went into the various processes which contributed to the development of the drafts that form the basis of the ultimate document, the citizens of Kenya were emphatic, persistent, and unequivocal about one thing: that decentralization, sharing, and devolution of power and resources was both overdue and, in fact, it was non-negotiable. And that was agreed across the country. As the Latin proverb goes, the voice of the people is the voice of God. Based on this unambiguous imperative from the people, leaders exercised very limited authority to debate and negotiate the modalities of instituting effective devolution that would actualize the people's and most cherished aspiration of devolution. In other words, the question was never whether devolution would happen, but only in what form. The drive to devolve stemmed from the bitter experience of extractive colonial institutions, which invested heavily in the White Highlands and brutally neglected elsewhere. This practice found expression in the National Economic Planning and Development Policy promulgated shortly after independence, which formalized inequalities and marginalization and led to the emergence of zero-sum politics and gross inequality in the allocation of public resources that informed our early years of our nationhood. This resulted in underdevelopment and economic stagnation, weakening of nationhood through strained bonds of cohesion and common endeavor, and a torn social fabric. Kenyans knew what the problem was, and as well, they knew what was the cause. This is the reason for the unanimous insistence on decentralization and sharing across the country. I therefore recall engaging with my parliamentary colleagues over a protracted period about how many levels of decentralization there would be and how many territorial or geographical units of devolved governance we would need. Some people went for 4 levels of governance, while others preferred only 2. An ambitious middle ground proposed 3 levels. Similarly, reluctant devolutionists campaigned for 8 units to coincide with the administrative provinces, whereas others wanted 14 regions, yet others demanded numbers varying from 24 to 56. I happen to have been part of this history, and I am very privileged that I participated in this conversation. And I'm very happy that today we are celebrating 10 years of devolution. What was no longer subject of controversy or subject of canvassing was the principle and object of devolution. The people had been clear, and on 27 August 2010, Kenyans ratified a constitution which embedded devolution into the very definition of our republic under Article 6 that describes the territory of Kenya not only in terms of its boundaries, but also according to our counties. In Article 10, the Constitution also highlights sharing and devolution of power, democracy, and participation of the people, as well as equity, social justice, inclusiveness, non-discrimination, and the protection of the marginalized as national values and principles of governance, with preemptory implications for the exercise of constitutional authority by any person at any place at any time. Counties are therefore intrinsic to the Constitution and proper definition of the Republic of Kenya. They exist to serve as platforms of actualization of the sovereignty of the people in several fundamental ways. They make state power more democratic and accountable, and promote unity through diversity by arbitrating between competing political impulses towards disintegration on one end and over-centralization on the other. Devolution also restored to the people their powers of self-governance and promoted their participation in the exercise of powers of state and in making of all decisions that affect them. Under devolution, our communities regained the right to manage their own affairs, while the interests and rights of minorities and marginalized could no longer be ignored. Article 174F of the Constitution sets out what